Welcome back to the Play by Play podcast. This is episode number 62, where today we will be reviewing the recent surprising blockbuster trade in the NBA, which was the swap between Luka Doncic and Anthony Davis. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe, leave a like, and comment down below, and share with your friends. And if you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on all social medias, that being TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. All of the ads will be down below. And like always, there will be a bar popping up right here. And without further ado, guys, the commentary of the Luka Doncic trade starts right now. So just when we thought that the NBA couldn't get any crazier, just when we thought that this whole trade deadline group of players that were available couldn't get any more congested. I mean, we've been talking about guys such as Jimmy Butler, Zach LaVine, Bradley Beal, Chris Middleton. I could go on and on of all these guys that had been rumored to be on the trade block. De'Aaron Fox, who has recently been in trade talks. It is Luka Doncic out of nowhere late at night last night who randomly gets traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. And there was so much chaos going around, so many emotions being thrown around. So here we've had a night to sleep on, and I want to say, everyone, calm down. Everyone needs to calm down, because I am here to say that whether you are a Lakers fan, whether you are a Mavericks fan, whether you are a basketball fan, this trade is a lot more even than a lot of people think. And what this trade really comes down to was two teams that really felt stuck in the situations that they were in. Going to start on the Dallas side because it is much longer than the Los Angeles Lakers side. Well, they're both pretty even, but with Dallas in this deal, and there have been plenty of reports that have been going around, it was very clear that they were just not comfortable with building a team around Luka Doncic for the near future. You have to remind yourself that Luka Doncic was eligible for a super max player contract that would have paid him either equal or even more than $345 million per year. This comes in a season where Luka Doncic has been struggling with injury, where Luka Doncic has been struggling with conditioning, and a report that just came out a couple of hours ago that the Mavs have reported that Luka Doncic right now is listed at almost 270 pounds, very similar to what we have seen over the past couple of years with Zion Williamson in New Orleans. And it started to worry Dallas. Not to mention the fact that despite going to the NBA championship last year, there were huge concerns about Dallas defensively, especially in that backcourt. Kyrie Irving is a solid defender, but there most of the time he does not attempt to really play defense. When he tries, he's solid. He can stick with his man. He can be there, but he's very wonky in his attempts to actually go out and play defense. And Luka Doncic himself, his lateral athleticism, his lateral defense on the perimeter is a huge weak spot. It's one thing that Boston did a really, really great job at utilizing, was that weakness in Dallas's defense. And it was probably one of, if not the main reason why Dallas cost themselves the NBA championship last year. Not to mention the fact that this Dallas team is not really as young as we think it is. Kyrie Irving is what, 32, 33 years old. Anthony Davis, who they have now, is 31, but PJ Washington is aging. Klay Thompson is up there. There are a lot of veteran players on this team. And this was a Dallas team that looked at their situation and said, we need to cash in on this roster as best as we can going forward right now. And what we need to do with that is we need to upgrade our defense and we need to upgrade our front court. It's one of the things that has boosted teams throughout the past couple of seasons. The Boston Celtics didn't win a championship until they got Kristaps Porzingis in their front court. Denver Nuggets, Nikola Jokic, you go back to 2021, you had the Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis Antetokounmpo. And most importantly, you go to 2020 when the Los Angeles Lakers won an NBA championship with Anthony Davis. This is the perfect time to do this right now. The Dallas Mavericks are cashing in and they are contending. And Anthony Davis, at 31 years old, whether you like it or not, when you put him at his natural power forward position and are able to put him next to one or potentially even two centerpieces, mostly pieces that are rim protecting type pieces, he flourishes because he is a great two-way forward. He has a lot of athleticism for his size on that perimeter. He is almost a mismatch for almost every single power forward in the league. He can extend out to the three-point line, which gives you much better spacing. That is the position where he fits. And the Lakers, who we'll get to in a minute, were not willing to make that sacrifice to go out and get him a center. And that is why there have been moments where the Lakers have struggled because that is just not the fit that Anthony Davis is supposed to be in. And so for Dallas, I understand that Luka is 25 years old. I understand that long term, this is going to hurt them. But when you have a championship level roster, I understand that Luka what made what five times all first team all NBA in his first 6 years in his NBA career. But at the end of the day, you need to cash in and make a better fit. And however you can slice it, Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, PJ Washington, Anthony Davis, Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford at six man, Najee Marshall. You still have Spencer Dinwiddie on that squad. That is a championship level squad. Can you imagine a duo, a pick and roll between both Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving? Like, that is going to be incredible. And even if you don't want to put those two together, they are still two guys that can work off their own. Kyrie Irving is probably one of, if not the best isolation scorer I have seen in the history of the NBA. Anthony Davis does so well, whether it's on the block or on the perimeter and driving to the basket. They can work separate, they can work together. It is a really, really solid fit in Dallas. And when you put to the fact that they have really solid depth behind them, you look at this Dallas team. I look at the majority of the West. I like the Thunder, but I do still think that they are 1 year away from truly, truly contending. I think that they're going to have a much longer run this year. I think they're going to win the West in the regular season and potentially make it to the conference finals. But I think if you face off against a team such as Denver or now this Dallas team, I do think that they get out. Denver, as much as they have been coming on throughout the middle of this season, I do still think that the depth there is really going to hurt them. I still think that some of the young guys that you have on that squad, such as Peyton Washington, Julian Strother, are going to hurt you in the long run. The Minnesota Timberwolves have kind of gotten out of this race a little bit ever since they traded away Karl Anthony Towns this past offseason. You look at the remaining, the Grizzlies. I'm not sure if they really even expected themselves to be in this position so far, but Anthony Davis, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, they're going to do a really great job of being able to neutralize guys like Jaren Jackson Jr., guys such as Zach Edey, and it's really going to be about the guard play from now in. But Dallas has the offense to compete with them. And Houston, while they do look great this year, again, this is really their first time contending. It reminds me of how the Sacramento Kings were a couple of years ago. They're likely to match up against a really veteran heavy team like the Lakers, the Timberwolves, the Clippers, or even in this position right now, the Dallas Mavericks, and they're likely going to be ousted in the first round. So there's vulnerability in the West. And in my opinion, now with Anthony Davis, with the defensive capabilities that this team is going to have, with the ability to put Kyrie Irving in the pick and roll with Anthony Davis, alongside having shooters on the outside such as Klay Thompson and PJ Washington. They needed to cash in on this. They had a weakness and they went out and they solved the weakness and they made what, in my opinion, is a much more complete roster from head to toe. My only real negative with this deal about this, not just looking at the long terms of things, but I felt that Dallas should have been able to get more picks out of this deal. Luka Doncic has been in the MVP race for years and years of his career now. He has solidified himself as easily a top five, top six player in the NBA. And you only get one first round pick out of it. Yes, I understand that Anthony Davis is good himself. He holds a lot of value. I'm only getting one first round pick. Max Christie, I completely forgot. I completely spaced out of it. They also get Max Christie out of this deal. So you have depth in this. I apologize if I'm bouncing all over the place. Now you have Dinwiddie, Max Christie, Najee Marshall, Daniel Gafford coming out of the bench. This is a team that could compete with the Oklahoma City Thunder, who normally go 8, 9, 10 man deep. The Mavericks can do the same thing, but I would have liked to see a lot more first round picks going forward because that would have given you a little bit more insurance in this deal because Anthony Davis, as great as he is, as great as this deal makes him, he also does have a little bit of injury concerns. Of course, he has a full history of him. So I feel like Dallas needs to get a little bit more insurance in this deal. But as far as what they wanted, as far as the fears that they had going forward with Luka, the fact that they had lost some confidence in him, they clearly didn't like the direction that he was going in with his health. And they had a pending deal on the table where they were going to have to make him one of, if not the highest paid player in the league. When you don't feel comfortable, when you don't have confidence in a player or in a deal, and you move forward with him, that would have been worse, especially in the long term. And with the fact that, Klay Thompson probably be off this team in the next couple of years, they would have had to have a massive reset, fully rehaul this team. It just would have taken way too long in the long run when they're clearly in a position. They were clearly in a position before this trade with Luka Doncic where they were not going to realistically compete for a championship. You get that out of the way, and now, in my opinion, even as the 8th seed in the West at this time, they are one of the favorites to go ahead and come out of this. So I like it. I like the defense capabilities. I like the bench depth. The only thing I would have liked is a little bit more insurance going forward with some first round picks. But overall, I do not hate this deal. Then you go to Los Angeles side. You go way out west to the Pacific Ocean with Los Angeles. This is a really interesting deal for them. I feel like last night Dallas fans were freaking out, right? Because you trade your top star, your young star, and they're thinking, what the heck are we doing? Anthony Davis is 31 years old, yada, yada, yada. And I think this morning, a similar emotion was kind of sitting in with LA. Because I think when you look at this team this year, reminder, this team is fifth in the West right now. Do I think that they could have made a big time run for the NBA championship with the current roster that they had constructed? No, I don't believe so. But now you have a team of Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves, LeBron, Dorian Finney-Smith, Jackson Hayes. Off the bench, you still have a couple of depth wings such as that give some great shooting, such as Cam Reddish and Dalton Connect. You have Jared Vanderbilt being your big time defensive backup wing. Um, but it's a Lakers team that was already really, really struggling defensively, and they go out and they give up their big time defensive piece. But it's a very similar situation where they just felt stuck. There were reports coming out a couple of weeks ago that both Anthony Davis and LeBron James were coming increasingly concerned because they just didn't feel like this roster could improve anymore. They could not go out and make a big time deal for a third star that would really benefit them, like a Zach LaVine, like a Jimmy Butler, like maybe a Brandon Ingram. They didn't feel comfortable with going out and making those moves because they didn't feel like it would improve them. And they also didn't really know if they had really the assets to go out and make that happen. Then it comes out that Anthony Davis is begging and pleading for them to go out and get a five. He's saying, hey, this is the final piece that we need. We just need a defensive big beside me. There were talks about Miles Turner. It was clear, obviously, now by this that the Pacers weren't really interested in what the Lakers really had to offer if there were any talks between those two teams. And so LA looks at this and they go, okay, realistically, we're not going to win a championship this year. LeBron is 40. He likely, at a maximum, has one more year left. If LeBron doesn't retire this year, I expect him to retire next year. We need to put ourselves in a better position to building this team forward because no matter if LeBron retires this year or he leaves and goes to a different team next year, if that happens, the floor is wide open. You now have Luka Doncic as your number one guy. You now have, like I mentioned, solid shooters such as Dalton Connect and Cam Reddish. You can kind of sort of begin to develop this team solely around Luka. And I think that's what we're seeing is this little bit of a shift towards Luka. They're still focused on LeBron. They still want him there. And the Luka and LeBron pairing is definitely very interesting. And I think it is something that actually could realistically work just because I think that LeBron would be really willing to go off ball and allow Luka Doncic to handle the ball. But they've reset this team in a way now. They've refreshed it in a way where they've kind of cut all their losses. They've cleared the field, and they're now looking ahead and going, okay, we still have two really talented superstars. We're still in a solid position in the West. going forward, we could still potentially get a top four, top five seed, maybe win a playoff series or two, maybe make it to the conference finals and lose there. If we don't get a championship this year, it's okay. We're going to clear the field. We'll either have LeBron for one more year or he'll depart, and we can really, really start to build this thing around Luka. The issue for me is for Los Angeles is how do you build around Luka? What do we really what can they learn from Dallas as far as building around Luka Doncic as your main star? I think Luka Doncic, as great as he is, as prolific as a scorer he is, he's somebody that's very, very difficult to build around. It's not as simple as I thought a couple of years back of going out and getting four or five shooters on the floor and going out and just being an offensive juggernaut, right? You need defensive pieces as well. You need guys that will be able to shoot, but also be able to cover up his defensive weaknesses. And you also need guys that are solid enough to go out and make certain plays for themselves, especially when he goes ahead and gets cut off. And to be honest, from a superstar duo perspective, I felt that Kyrie was almost as clean of a fit as you could get with Luka Doncic. Maybe it wasn't the cleanest fit, but the ability for Kyrie to be his own personal playmaker, the ability for Kyrie to be a really solid shooter, the ability for Kyrie for down the stretch in the playoffs being a solid defender, I felt that that was the best that you were going to get outside of going out and getting possibly a Nikola Jokic, which right now isn't really a possibility because one, Lakers don't have the assets. Number two, Denver is not going to get that up. I'm just really unsure of who you go out and grab going forward. They might have to take this really in a 5 to 10 year span where they go out and they draft multiple pieces, kind of like the Oklahoma City Thunder did, to get the right guys that they need at the helm and develop those guys into the roles that they want them to be, which is this 3-and-D. You almost kind of need 6 or 7 Contavious Caldwell Popes against Luka Doncic for him to be able to be successful. But moving back to where the Lakers are at right now, could they go out and get somebody else? There's definitely room for them to get one more piece, and I think they've set themselves in a position to do that. Now, are they going to be able to negotiate that? I'm really, really unsure. But if they could go out and get a rim protecting big, like if they could go out and get a Miles Turner, or even if they could go out and they get, a Walker Kessler, or maybe a DeAndre Ayton from Portland, or even a Robert Williams from Portland, if they could go out and get a piece from that, this Lakers team does look a little bit more scary than I thought because Jackson Hayes isn't going to be able to carry that load. Not nearly as well as Anthony Davis did. He's just not as great of a player as Anthony Davis is. That is without question. So they've made the switch. They're focused on the future. But going forward this year, they still have an opportunity. They just need one more piece. Now, what I'm also interested to see on this Lakers team is how Austin Reeves' role changes going forward because they were looking at Austin Reeves as kind of becoming their primary ball handler after they traded away D'Angelo Russell. And now he's definitely going to have to go to the side because Luka's going to be primary. LeBron's going to be right behind that. He's really going to have to go to really a spot-up shooter after this Luka Doncic trade. So his role is going to diminish a lot, which I kind of hate to see. But it's going to be a really, really interesting fit going forward. So at the end of the day with this trade, as stupid as it may seem in certain aspects, there's also a lot of benefit to it. For the Mavericks, it's in the short term. They felt like that they could capitalize on this roster. They go out and do it. The Lakers did not feel like they could capitalize with their current roster, so they felt that they had to flip it and start looking down the road. And because of that, I have to look at this for both sides, and I have to grade them very, very similar and very, very well. I look at Los Angeles and I go, probably a B plus, A minus. You get the best scorer in the league, one of the top players in the league. You did not have to give up a huge amount of picks. Yes, you did have to give up a young guy in Max Christie and a lot of your defense, but you're now in a situation where going down the line, you have a path to build around a future superstar, whether LeBron stays or not. you have young pieces around him, and you could potentially be one or two pieces away from still contending this year. For Dallas, as much as I felt like they were originally the better side out of this, that they won the trade out of this, I have to really rate them as a B. And that's really because it's really going to be based off of, can they capitalize off of this? If they go out and they, make it to an NBA championship but do not win a title, then their plans go all to crap, because after these, 2, 3 years that they can realistically make a run at this, the team is going to diminish significantly. I mean, the field is going to clear for them because AD is probably going to be gone, Kyrie's going to be gone, Clay's going to be gone. They're really going to have to hit a huge reset. It's really a massive, massive gamble. But at the same time, for Dallas, if there was any piece that you could really get, I really feel like Anthony Davis was the best that you could do. And with the amazing depth that you have, the defense, I mean, this is a team that is really, really great. So it's really a 50-50 here for both sides. If the Lakers can't capitalize and can't find a way to build around Luka in the future, this trade is going to be a massive loss for them. If Dallas can't capitalize on a championship within the next 3 years, then it's really going to hurt them because they don't have any insurance going forward. They don't have a lot of picks going forward, and they just lost their top star. So this is a trade that is going to change the scope of the league, but it is going to take a lot of time to develop. It's going to take about 3 years to see how this works out for Dallas. And honestly, for the Lakers, it's going to take about anywhere from 5 to 7 years to see how this really materializes for them and if they could build another contender. The final piece to this trade, though, is LeBron James, who is now sitting there, had absolutely no idea that this trade was going to happen, has, like I said, this year and potentially one more year left. His guy just got traded. What happens with him? Again, you have to think that it kind of is based off of the Lakers' success, but if it happens the way that I believe it's going to happen, where the Lakers get to the playoffs and they win probably at maximum one playoff series, if not get bounced in the first round, could LeBron want out? And where could he go? Heck, could LeBron look at the current state of this roster right now and say, "Hey guys, I don't have any time left. I need to bounce this year. I need to bounce within, the last 4 or 5 days that we have in this trade deadline, and I need to request a trade." He does have a no trade clause, so he can kind of dictate where he wants to go. Would the Lakers be willing to do that? Would any other team really be willing to do that, especially if they could potentially snag him in the offseason? It's going to be really interesting to see LeBron's emotions going forward. LeBron's not somebody that really quickly react. Like, he allows things to marinate a little bit to kind of plan out his next move. So I don't think that he has really enough time to go ahead and request a trade and go to a different roster within the next couple of hours, within the next couple of days. But next year, teams that could just use that third guy, right? A supporting star, the guy that could go out and get 16, 18, potentially 20 points per game, still be solid defensively. It's going to be a lot of teams that could potentially want LeBron's services. I'm looking at Golden State, who has a ticking time clock as well with Steph Curry going out. Heck, Dallas, if this year doesn't work out, they do away with Klay Thompson. Could you slide LeBron in there? There's a possibility. Could he go back to Cleveland potentially with the moves that they've been making, with how young that squad is, and make a run there? It's going to be interesting to see how this move really affects the remaining year and a half of LeBron's career, if not half a year of LeBron's career if he retires after this. But if he doesn't retire, you could see LeBron on, what would this be, his fourth new team within his career. And it'd be really, really interesting to see where that landing spot is. But overall, that's all I have for you guys today. A huge, huge blockbuster deal, but one that I don't think really hurts either side, as long as they're able to capitalize on the opportunity that they now created for themselves. You had two rosters that were in really, really stuck positions. You flipped it. This is what happens in life. You have assets. It's not really working out. You got to go out. You got to flip it. You got to find a new path forward. Both teams did this. Like I said, I would rate them both the same, anywhere from about an A minus to a B. I just feel like Dallas needed one more draft pick, but outside of that, I think that going forward, this was the right move for how these two rosters were constructed. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with these two rosters going forward. But let me know what you guys think. Who won this deal? Who lost this deal? What would you grade both sides of this deal? What do you think about this for Dallas in the short term? What do you think about this for the Lakers in the long term? Do you think that they can build a team around Luka Doncic going forward? And probably most importantly, at least legacy wise, what does this do for LeBron James, his career, his legacy, and potentially his future? If you guys are watching this on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe, leave a like, and comment down below, and share with your friends. And if you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on all social medias, that being TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. You guys already know where those ads are down below, and there will be a bar popping up below me right here. And guys, that is all for me. I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.